We have tonight is the public hearing or budget presentation public hearing for the fiscal year 2014 proposed budget for the City of Moscow. We had a budget workshop in mid-July. We'll go through a little bit of the history. One of the things that we were instructed to do as staff was to try and provide more substantive information at this public hearing, so we will attempt to do that. I believe I've got about a 20-minute presentation, which, as you know, is about an hour and a half shorter than the one I gave to City Council at the workshop. So we'll go through it. This is rendered down or distilled from the information that was given at the public hearing, and I'll certainly stand for questions whenever the council would like. What you see before you are the fiscal year 2014 goals that were presented by the City Council. That's the first step in our budget process. We usually meet, talk about goals from the previous fiscal year, and use those to develop goals for the upcoming fiscal year. As I noted during my presentation, and certainly tonight, that all of these goals are being addressed and have been addressed in the FY 2013 and FY 2014 budget, except for the security camera system, which was brought before the council a couple of times and was talked about again during the budget workshop, and there is no current funding in the budget for that. The various reasons for that include some of the logistics in having a security camera system, and we've been asked to take a look at that again, and we certainly will do so. But that particular goal is not addressed in this budget. Okay, the overview. For the benefit of the public, the council knows this already. We have about a 4-month preparation process for the budget. I've already talked about the way we establish the council goals, or the way the council establishes those goals and how they're presented. The budget, as will be presented tonight, is balanced. After our meeting budget workshop in July, there were some changes that were directed by the council. Those have been integrated into this budget. So the presentation tonight will deal with trends in comparison and also highlight some of the budget processes. Property tax adjustments, that's always a big thing, obviously, to our taxpayers and to the council. The City of Moscow, over the last, at least my tenure, the last 21 years with the City of Moscow, the council has been very frugal about taking tax increases. As the council knows, we are limited to increasing taxes 3% of the previous year's levy by law. We are allowed to exceed that only if we have banked some of those 3% increases. What you see before you is the last 4 years, 2010 through 2013. Suffice it to say that previous to that, for the previous 15 years, there were also several years when no tax increases were taken. So the council, or the City of Moscow, has a significant amount of what we call foregone amount or foregone taxes, taxes that were authorized but were not levied by the City Council. And if memory serves me correctly, they amount to right around $500,000. Don, that's, I think I'm pretty close. 585? 595, sorry. Okay, so a significant amount of money in foregone amount. There are a couple of things that happened this year that are significant and went into account as we're preparing this budget. One is Fire Station number 3 general obligation bonds are paid off this month. So that will save our taxpayers $40 a year on a $200,000 home. I would note that that is a great project all the way across the board. It was built for about $500,000 less than the original estimate. We were able to obtain participation from the Moscow Rural Fire District, excuse me. So that was a great joint project, and that goes off the tax rolls. We also, the Moscow School District bond levy, $10.8 million levy, capital bond levy that was put forth by the Moscow School District. City Council worked with the district board and obligated $1.5 million of Hamilton Fund, which is a fiduciary fund that we maintain as a result of the contribution of Bob Hamilton back in 2001 for recreation. $1.5 million was committed in this FY 2014 budget to match up to $1.5 $8.5 million for the school district for construction of the Joseph Street fields.
If I may, Gary, Mayor.
Please.
Gary, my notes show that the $1.5 million from Hamilton funds to go to the Joseph Street ball fields affected the PERC operations by $30,000. That the retirement of the certificates of participation was a $58,220 item. I'm looking at Don, and that interest rate, low interest rates have caused us a loss of $20,000, all totaling the $108,350.
I haven't gotten to that yet, but that's how I would have explained it.
Well, I was just reading the fact that the contribution of the 1.5 affects the HERC operations negatively by 108.
Exactly. My only point in putting that up there was to say that within the budget itself, the $1.5 million is set to be paid out toward the Joseph Street ball fields, but you've done a great job of explaining why the council has authorized taking some of the foregone amount to cover some of the interest revenues that we are no longer receiving because of the actions of paying off the certificates of participation early. And, of course, we're seeing interest rates that are extremely low, as you've explained. So exactly right. And as we go through this a little further, when we get to the Hamilton Fund, we'll go into that a little more if you like.
I was hoping we could skip that slide since we've just explained it.
Okay. Well, maybe I only have 47 more, so we'll be able to get something else in there. Okay, uncollectible property tax was the other piece that is affecting our tax rate, and that $30,561 represents the results of taxes that were paid to us by Latah County, appropriately pursuant to our levy, but since court case was decided, those taxes, in fact, were determined to have been collected not according to law. So essentially, Latah County now will short us on our current levy in order to make that money back up. That's a one-time thing, and that will not occur in the future. Okay, percentage of taxes by entity. Everybody asks, well, what's the city take of the tax dollars that are collected within the city of Moscow? What you see before you is a theoretical pie consisting of $1. How much is collected by each of the entities up there? City of Moscow, as you can see, collects 24.6% of the tax levy, or every tax dollar collected in Moscow for operations. For voter-authorized bonds, the amount is 3.5%. Then you can see the school district has the lion's share by far at 40.6%, and that is before the $10.8 million capital levy, I believe. Is that not correct, Don? That'll be assessed next year. And the county is just a little below where the city is, and you can tell from there that the other smaller districts take less than 11% of the remaining tax generated. This is something that we've shown every year. In the last 10 years, we've seen the city of Moscow's position fall about 7 or 8 places. The blue line across the trend line is the average city tax levy per assessed $1,000 of valuation within the state of Idaho. And as you can see, they range from between $12 and $14 per thousand down to about $2.15. The city of Moscow at $4.53 currently holds the 37th position for low levy per thousand of assessed valuation. And as the council knows, and I think I've got a slide that deals with it. Here we go. This is a slide that tells you why that happens. City of Moscow taxes, or taxes paid within the city of Moscow by Moscow City taxpayers, are not among the lowest in the state. They're actually a little above average, but the reason that they are is because of a couple of different factors, and those factors are the difference between the levies from the different taxing entities. As we'll talk about in a few moments, our tax levy for the city is way different than that which is taken in Lewiston when you take the 3 largest tax-paying, or excuse me, tax-receiving governmental entities, and also because within the city of Moscow, we have more non-taxable exempt property within our city limits than we do have taxable property. Running right around, at least, we just got some new numbers out of the assessor within the last couple of days, but just a little over $1 billion of taxable property and almost $1.2, $1.1.5 billion of non-taxable property. So what happens is, as you have a certain amount of operations that need to be paid for, if that amount is spread over less taxable property, then everybody's tax bill goes up. This is a slide I was talking about before. As you look, the cities in these slides is in the blue. As you can see, Moscow at about just right around 25% of the tax dollar generated in the city of Moscow, compared to 38 or 39% city of Coeur d'Alene, and about 47% for the city of Lewiston. In comparison, you can see where the rest of the dollars go. County taxes fairly comparable, within a nickel or so. School district taxes, as you can see, are significantly greater within the city of Moscow than in these other jurisdictions. All of this essentially combines to make Moscow a pretty unique place as far as property taxes are concerned. Other revenue adjustments that are being proposed in this budget are water and sewer rates. If you look at those, we'll get to those in a few moments, but the water and sewer rates were worked on by a citizen rate committee. We hired a consultant back in 2006 who again assisted us this last year, FCS consultants, assisted in looking at what it costs to run the water system, run the sewer system, pay for operations, pay for necessary infrastructure, and pay for deferred maintenance and replacement. And Council had a workshop on this. The rate committee met several times, talked about this. A lot of work was done to it, and those are the rates that are proposed in this year's budget. They're somewhat softened in that the rates were implemented on a 2-year basis, so they are don't have the big front-end bite. They're still fairly significant, but we did try to provide a little bit of relief and spread it over 2 years. New construction, $25,460 is what the new construction generated in new taxes. And then our natural gas and electrical franchise fees generate 3% of gross sales within the city limits. That is unchanged, only changed by the amount of those sales. Salaries and benefits, the cost of living adjustment that is proposed in this budget is 1.5%. As you know, the city calculates that up based on a March cost of living, not an average over the year. There has been some discussion among the council that maybe we want to change that to an average, so we will look at that for the next year. Otherwise, we have 3% for employees who are paid less than market available under our AMPS program, and 1% for those who are at market. So trying to shift more of that salary dollar down to those employees who are still less than market rate, and 3.5% for the step and grade, which is a separate police system that the council authorized several years ago.
Excuse me.
For the public, AMPS is,
The actively managed performance system.
Thank you.
It's a pay-for-performance system. It's not the same as the step and grade in the police department, which is clearly defined by 7 steps and 3.5% per step. VEBA is a voluntary employee benefit account, which is a benefit that the council authorized for city employees. That is $250 per year. Employees are allowed to put that into an account and pay for deductibles for medical insurance, so on and so forth. Or you can hold it until you retire and use it for paying for medical expenses after that. We have a very active wellness program and an employee recognition program, which accounts for the employee picnic. We have a holiday celebration, and then we celebrate years of service with the city. Okay, general fund revenues, we'll go fairly quickly. The trend line for sales tax is that it is going up. You'll see this throughout these slides. 2007 was the peak, and then there was a precipitous drop-off for the next 4 years through 2010, and then recoveries that you're seeing. You'll see this throughout the next several slides. State shared revenues, the same thing. State shared revenues are shared, well, I should go back. State sales taxes in Idaho, these are not the sales taxes generated within the city limits. They are paid directly to the State Tax Commission that then distributes them out according to a legislative formula with cities and counties across the state retaining a healthy share for the